All right, y'all. Quick word from our sponsor. Discover the hassle-free trailer leasing experience with Paramount Trailer Leasing, a family-owned business based out of the greater Fort Worth area. With more than 30 years of industry experience, they offer a range of high-quality trailers from flatbeds to dry vans and specialized models designed to meet all of your transportation needs. Enjoy flexible lease terms, competitive rates, and a same-day simple leasing process that requires no credit checks and guarantees trailers with no recap tires. Just fill out an online application, have your lease agreement prepared, receive a call to arrange pickup, sign the agreement, hook up, and get on the road all in one day. Visit ParamountTrailerLeasing.com today, and also you get free breaks for the lifetime of your lease just by mentioning Truck and Hustle. All right, y'all, let's go. If I'm new to the bulk loads load board, what is the best way for me to navigate it and kind of find opportunities? What would you like? What suggestions would you give to people out there?
Yeah, I tell people that we're going on year 15, so I've seen the guys that have been successful and the guys that have not. And I think number one, you have to be on the board, and you have to be, and we talked about this before our podcast, dude, you have to be visible to people, and you have to be transparent and open out there. I think the people that I see that have been very successful, they've just been consistent on servicing their customers, and then just looking at other opportunities out there to maximize the revenue.
You got it.
Yeah.
So just like marketing for the most part.
Yeah, I think marketing, and again, I think, I've probably gotten some flack over this over the years, but I say this, that I know a lot of bulk haulers that are doing other things besides bulk that are making a great living. One guy that comes to the top of my head, they still do a lot of bulk, and there's bulk in their name, but this company now, they have a mechanic shop that's another business. They have a trailer washout where they're now washing trailers and trucks and stuff like that. Other companies, they have leasing programs and stuff. So they're building these other entities to kind of hedge their bets or to kind of create a portfolio. Because again, the guys that I see that are going out, dude, all their eggs are in one basket, and they're doing one thing for one customer. And if that customer goes out, guess what they're doing? They're going out too, or that little one. So they're not kind of thinking. I have this coin, thinking outside the bulk, think outside the box, think outside the. You got to think outside the bulk, man. You got to think out others. And again, I think bulk is a great. There's tons of opportunity, but you got to keep thinking as a business owner out there, what else can I be doing to kind of hedge my bets and diversify out there.
Add other revenue streams.
Yeah, add other revenue streams. Man, the trucking companies, again, this has been the beauty of what I've done now for the past 20 years is I've talked to tens of thousands and thousands of trucking companies. Yeah, I've told you I've been, our podcast and our video link that we go out, we get to visit all these successful companies, and you get to see the things that these successful companies are doing. And again, some of it may not be very sexy, but it's consistent, and they're continuing to grow. And I think that's too many people, I think they want this big rush, and they want something that looks so sexy and beautiful up top. And again, the companies that are successful, they're just doing the same thing over and over and over and growing, and they just see those opportunities,
Got it. So talk to me about some of the features on the load board. Like if you're on the board, obviously there's people who are listing loads for carriers. How do you know, like rate per mile, is that listed? Like how transparent are the load boards? Just give me an idea what that looks like.
Yeah, you're going to open a can of worms now. So our load board, there is an option for rates to get posted. A lot of guys don't post rates. I'm just gonna get the cat out of the bag and say it right now. And I was a shipper at one time. As much as I would like to post rates, there's a couple of reasons I didn't. Number one, I wanted to vet the company that was inquired about the load. First, number one, to make sure that they're serious about it, and then they weren't shopping around. Number two, I didn't want a competitor. Because in the bulk world, and especially commodities, you can put two and two together. If you can see where an origin something's coming out of, you can see a rate and all that, you can put all the math together, and especially from a competitor, to go in there and maybe cut that down. So say you had a good rate on there, some competitor might come in, they may buy the same commodity, lower the rate to make their margin. Well, now you're out of that trade. So I went down a quick rabbit hole on that one. But I want to say this just to disclose, like a lot of companies, they don't post the rate because it's not because they don't want the trucker to see it.
It's not about transparency.
They want to build that relationship with them to make sure that there's trust involved before they disclose kind of their cards. Because again, when you're showing someone a rate, and especially if you're posting that specific rate online, I mean, it's to some of these companies, it's very similar. Like, hey, you're putting your social security number out there, or you're putting your credit card out there for someone to take. So the big thing is they don't want carriers to see that. But a lot of times, once you reach out to that company, they see that you're serious about the load, that you're serious about doing business with them, they'll start disclosing those details. I say all that, we are working on ways to get more transparency on there, to have where you can actually have approved carriers and you can vet those carriers ahead of time. So those carriers will have full disclosure on there. We've also built a TMS system that has more of those internal features on there where you can actually disclose a lot more of that stuff. So it's kind of, we call it more bulk loads 2.0 that you can use, where it's got more of those enhanced features on there. But yeah, that's the biggest one on there. Bulk loads, again, we're a marketplace, so we're connecting shippers, carriers, brokers all together. One thing that's unique about bulk, again, we do deal with freight brokers, but there's a lot more direct shippers on our board than I would say most general freight, because a lot of these companies, it's the trader is handling logistics, so he's handling the trucks as well. So that person at Cargill or ADM or whatever truck grain company that would be at, they're very tightly connected with those trucking companies, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It does make sense. Okay, and then in terms of the way you get paid, is it just a rate per mile, or are there additional, like, is it additional pay on top of that, like for like the offload or anything like that? Like, how does that work?
Good question for people that don't know. So in bulk, 99.9% of all rates are paid on the tonnage or weight. So very little, you'll see bulk freight that gets paid a flat rate or a rate per mile or anything like that. It's usually paid per ton or per bushel or per hundredweight or per gallon of that. And again, you got to kind of do the math and start figuring out what that equates to, and again, you got to be very efficient on the weight that you can haul. If you're, I'm just going to say in the Midwest, if your state's licensed for 85.5, you better make sure that your truck and your payload where you're scaling, 26, 27 tons to get that maximum, because if you're not, you're kind of leaving money on the table. But yeah, everything in the bulk world is really paid on the tonnage and stuff like that. And that's where some of these successful companies, they've really mastered the, being able to have their truck and trailer the lightest as possible so that they can get the max legal payload on there.
Yeah, so I'm sure there's like a formula that you have to kind of figure out, like, what you want to pull, and then you have to obviously put the mileage and the fuel and everything to figure out what that rate's going to be.
Yep.
Do you have any pricing tools on?
We do.
Bulk
yep.
load?
So we have a rate analytics tool that we do. We have a sister company called Smart Freight Funding. That's our factoring arm, and it's again, it's connected right into bulk loads. So for carriers that haul on bulk loads, it's optional, but if they want quick pay, they can go to Smart Freight, and we factor. We process thousands of tickets every day from haulers on there. But I'll say that, so we've been able to use a lot of that data, just that raw data, and get some averages on what rates will be. So we can get some pretty good information on kind of where rates are tracking.
Do you find, like, is there any like resistance? Like, is it easy for people to get paid a fair wage, or because in traditional general freight, there's always complaints about the rates aren't high enough, there's not enough in it, fuel costs are high, insurance is high. Do you hear those same kind of conversations and talk in bulk, or is it more so like, is it more fair?
No, I think you'll see, there's always this persona, the rates are never good enough. And it's COVID, They were good enough. But it's just always, I think there's just always a stigma that, and again, I agree with that. It's all about, again, you think about this world that we're in the marketplace. You got carriers that are trying to maximize their revenue, and you got shippers that are trying to, get their product moved for as efficient as possible, So it's just always that fine line. And again, when you're dealing with trucking, where you got so many thousands of companies getting into the business, so many people competing, you just get these razor thin margins. And I think that's where it gets so tough for a lot of these carriers.
All right, y'all, listen, I'm happy to announce that we finally launched our YouTube memberships. Listen, if you want to support Truck and Hustle for all the hard work that we've been doing over the past 5 years, this is where you need to be. As a part of our memberships, number one, you'll get exclusive access to all of our archive content. Number two, we'll be doing at least one live webinar with one of the guests or somebody else from our network that you love to continue to add value to you and your business. Third, we'll be having exclusive behind the scenes content that we shoot and doesn't, make the final cut. So make sure you go check it out. Get that subscription right now and join us, man. TNH forever. Let's go. All right, guys, if you love Truck and Hustle and you love the interviews and the information that we're providing week to week, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the channel. All right, Hustle fam.